everyone. Hello, Stephen. Welcome back to the Rose Quartz Divorce Podcast. I'm your friend Diana. I am a divorce doula here with my friend Stephen, and I'm many other things, including a mom, a yoga teacher, a curious person, an entrepreneur, a writer. I'm a doer of things, and I am checking in today as, whew, what a day I had, Stephen. I'll tell you more, but please
For sure.
introduce yourself. Mm.
Peace, everyone. I am Steven. So happy to be back live with my teacher, Diana. I am a liberator, an entrepreneur, father, and friend. D, tell me all about your day. What happened?
Dude, so, you know, I've been like really pushing lately. Like, okay, I have stuff going on, but I'm not gonna hide from it. I'm gonna like dig deep. I'm gonna find my strength and power. I'm gonna find clarity, all this stuff. And I was really like doing well. Like I was like riding a good wave. And then today, just out of the blue, my car decided to leave me sitting somewhere. And man, it's just like always such a bummer because immediately it's like all the repercussions. It's like not only am I stranded somewhere, but like all of the like financial repercussions and all of the like how am I going to deal with this for how long repercussions, how am I going to get places repercussions, how am I going to get my kid places, all of these things that I am responsible for require me to be moving around, require me to be mobile, and now my little mobility has been it's a no go, it's a no starter literally.
Mm.
So it's a tough one, right? When that stuff happens, just like out of the blue.
Yeah, when life just interrupts your flow, your agenda, like what do you do in those moments, right? Like how do you h- are we flexible enough, no pun intended, to pivot and to pay attention to what is and ask the question, what's next, right?
Right, because there's nothing you can do.
Nothing you can do.
I can't fix it. I can't fix that engine. And I am at a point where like I get that, there's no reason to like lose it in the moment. Like it's just not gonna start. It's not gonna
Hmm.
start. And so you gotta start making phone calls. Like, thank God, I'm blessed. Like I had the ability to call a tow truck and the wherewithal to get that done pretty quickly. And I wasn't too far from home. I was about a 25-minute walk. And it was like 80 degrees today where I am. So it's like a lovely spring day. I definitely like got a little overheated, but in a good way. I got some exercise in. And that's what our cars don't let us do.
Yeah, for sure. I remember on I think it was Sunday, I was flying back into town and there were delays at the airport. And I just been away. I just got back from a 10-day trip, and so I'm homesick. I'm ready to be home, right? And so first there's delays, and then secondly, we landed into Philadelphia around 2 a.m. And as the captain, the pilot rather, is taxiing towards a gate, he or she stops, and there is nothing happening. I look out the window and it's desert. There's no one outside. So in my mind, I'm thinking already no one is here to taxi the aircraft to the terminal. And so the pilot gets on the intercom and makes that announcement that there's no one here and it's going to take about 20 to 30 minutes until someone to arrive. Now think about this, right? It's we've already had delays and it is late in the morning or late in the evening, or however you want to phrase it, and now you have to wait some more. Can you imagine how many folks were sucking their teeth and just like voicing their frustrations and things of that nature? And for a split second, I was going to join in the chorus of those who were frustrated, and I quickly, or rather, my meditation reminded me that. there's absolutely nothing you can do in this moment. So you have a choice. You could be frustrated, which it could be totally fine as a human being, or you could just take a deep breath and just be calm and
You
just wait
gotta
until
pause. You
yeah.
gotta pause, because it is like it's valid, like to be upset
Yeah.
about these things, right? But then, yeah, you've got to pause and realize, like, okay, this is happening.
It's happening.
A sequence is about to unfold that I have no control over,
I have
and I think
no control.
that's one of the, right. That's one of the hardest things for us as humans is that we don't have control, and it's much like when a relationship falls apart, possibly especially when we don't want that relationship to fall apart, when we lose control, that it's really hard to just be with that, right? So when
Yeah.
these little things like your car's transmission dropping out or your plane being delayed 10 hours or whatever it is, I say little things. When these little things happen, it's really important for us to practice not losing it,
For
because
sure.
when the really important things happen, you want to have already sort of set that in yourself, that you're not going to just lose it at every chance you get. You might lose it sometimes, but this is just going to be what it is. I have to figure out what to do with my car, but I got to do that tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's what I realized too. It's like there's really just nothing I can do today. This happened at about 5 o'clock, and it got towed and it got left somewhere. And you know, I was looking forward to speaking with you tonight, Stephen. So I just let it roll.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
life becomes a little bit more manageable when we learn to let go and just let it roll, as you mentioned, especially when dealing with breakups, right? But yeah, anyways, what's on your mind? What are we talking about today?
Well, we had been in my very roundabout Gemini, ADHD, circuitous, mercurial manner of organizing things. We had been going through the gates of sorrow, in terms of like identifying and processing grief. And we got somewhere. We did the first gate, which is everything that we love, we will lose.
Hmm.
We did the second gate, that is the places that have not known love, places inside ourselves, the pieces of ourselves that have not known love. And I thought we might kind of do a preamble today to a pretty big gate, that is the third gate. And this is all from this incredible book that I've been reading for like 6 years. I don't know if it'll show on here, but I love this book. It's called The Wild Edge of Sorrow. And
Hmm.
it's a beautifully written book. Like this is a book for people who love words and poetry and those kinds of like evocative um, things to read. It's just an absolutely incredible book by Francis Weller. So the third gate that he identifies in this is the gate that the sorrows of the world. It's the sorrow, like all of the sorrows of the world. So I thought maybe we could talk about that as a preliminary. Next time we'll go a little deeper into it, but just to open that gate already feels like a lot to me.
Hmm. For sure. And how is the author defining the world or of the world?
So all of the sorrows of like the masses of society, of the people who aren't being cared for, people who lack, people who are at the wailing wall of life. So the sorrows of the world are all encompassing. And, I often go back to that quote from the Buddha, attributed to the Buddha, I assume, that we are all here to experience 10,000 joys and 10,000 sorrows. And we get all of them. We get each of them. If we're blessed to stay alive another day,
Yeah.
those we're going to get both. So the sorrows of the world are everything. It's everything. It could be like political sorrow, societal sorrow, relationship sorrow. It could be environmental sorrow. It could be financial sorrow. The sorrows, that's what I'm saying, like why I kind of want to do a preliminary as I say those things. Like, what does that, how do you receive that? Like, are there more little gates that open from that big gate of when I say those things?
Yeah, when I think about the sorrows of the world, I think of those who are abused, are being slaughtered, are being oppressed, are being bullied. Um, I can't help but to mention what's happening in Gaza. I can't help but to mention all those who have been impacted by the Epstein world, um, or any other world. All these and all these. I don't. I'm not present in these spaces, so I can't verify if any of these stuff is factual, but the news or information that is being shared creates a sense of despair within me at times. Causes me to wonder if all that we're doing even matters in the grand scheme of things, especially since um, it seems as if those who are in power have lost touch with what it means to be human, right? And the basic decency of caring for your neighbor, for the simple fact that we are fellow human beings, right? No matter what your status might be, whatever your orientation might be, uh, race, whatever the case may be, the fact that we both share this oxygen, this polluted oxygen, should be enough for us to have basic decency, basic consideration for one another. And I cannot relate to not having basic decency or consideration for my fellow human, right? And I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying that I at times have never been self-centered or anything of that nature. But at the core of my being, I have a conscience. I care about how I treat humans, right? Um, and so hearing all of these polarizing, controversial, heart-wrenching narratives that are happening or possibly are happening all over the world is for me is so bad to be true. Like I can't believe that.
Whew. You know, it really it strikes me to my core when we talk about things like the Epstein files, and I know it's like a big news item right now, but like you said, it's we're kind of all put in this place where it's like, well, how do I prove this? Nobody's proving it because they're not letting it being proven by whatever standard society has decided we need legal proof on. But at the same time, when we see these things being talked about, it's like if they're being talked about, it's not for no reason. And somewhere deep inside, that truth rings true. In our bones, we feel the pain. We feel the fear. We feel the grip of power that keeps you under control, right? And so somewhere as an empath, I'll just say somewhere
Hmm.
deep inside, like I feel that those stories ring true. When I hear the people share their stories, it rings true. I do not know why these people in power that are doing these things are not being held accountable. It absolutely blows my mind. Now, to bring this back to the third gate or the sorrows of the world, this is, I think, kind of brings us to an existential crisis.
Yep.
And it's a reckoning. how do we reckon with, like you said, humanity when it is inhumane, when it has no humanity? This is not how humans act or treat each other, to my understanding. So that gate just gets, I feel like these gates are very big, heavy. If I picture them in my head, the gates of the sorrows of the world, I picture these dark, heavy, dirty, like sludge hanging from them, like creaking gates.
Mhm.
That's what I picture when I think of the sorrows of the world. And like you said, just the despair, the wailing that kind of comes from the depths of our soul, whether we can prove something legally or not, it hurts so much to even hear about these things, to process these things. I can't imagine, being part of these things, but at the same time, I can, because we're all connected. So on some level, it's affecting all of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you're a human being in the world, I imagine that there is some type of emotional response, even if you're choosing or electing to not pay attention to it, or you're trying to sweep it underneath the rug, or you are some super meditative guru that has transcended the, from, the disparities and sorrows of the world. I'm sure even in that pocket, even in that level, that frequency, and I'm not critiquing those who are of that, who have climbed that or have risen above, the norm or the societal challenges. I'm sure there's still that gut punch of some sort that one experience when they hear of or learn of the gruesome. This There's so many words you could add there, but more so, just want to highlight the issues or the challenges, the experiences, the realities that people who do not have power are being bullied by those who are in power.
And this can be in relationships too.
For
So I
sure.
often talk about like the cult of one. Sometimes you get into a
Mm,
relationship and one person has the power and the other person doesn't.
yeah.
So it's just you do what they say, or you act the way they want you to act, or you make sure things are happening the way they want them to happen, or you're in trouble, kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. That's the leader that you have to follow. So this can happen personally too. Those big, horrible, sludgy gates that I was talking about could be, confining an individual as well. And I also want to back up and say for a moment in terms of like the guru complex, because coming up in the yoga community since 1989, I will say there's been, in my short time watching yoga, there's been a lot of rises and a lot of falls, and these kinds of things can create a sort of larger sorrow of the world too, because there will be teachers or gurus that rise up and so many people look to for guidance, for knowledge, for yoga, for uh, like spiritual fulfillment.
Mm-hmm.
And how many Netflix specials, HBO documentaries do we need to show that this is not really a thing? This is a sorrow of the world, where you are sometimes in these communities, and I will say, especially yoga, led to believe that you follow this person and you will find enlightenment because they did, and they're going to show you how to do it. But then it turns out they've been abusing their power the whole
Yeah.
time. In modern day, you have the Anusara yoga community.
dealing with the John Friend fallout. We have things said about Patabi Joyce. We have the crazy, I will say, Bikram
Mm,
documentary where we see abject abuse of power. And I will say, in my personal direct experience, I was a student of Kundalini Yoga for a long time, and many things came out about the leader of Kundalini Yoga, Yogi Bhajan, um, which made me unable to continue to be associated with that community. So for me, the sorrow was so great that I had to completely, I could not associate anymore. And that was heartbreaking to have to say goodbye to something that had been actually very helpful to me, to
mm,
something, to a kind of yoga that I enjoyed teaching, that I enjoyed sharing, that was effective, I thought. But I could not be in alignment with myself and
mm,
continue to promote something that came from a place of power imbalance, abuse of sex, and some pretty serious financial misgivings as well. So again, it's like this huge societal. There's a community around. There's a culture around these kinds of, whether it's your I don't know, maybe this happens in other ways. I'll say maybe it's like the dance team that you perform with. Well, we all have to do things this way, and this is the way we're doing things. Maybe it's around like a way that you decide to organize your eating, like veganism. Okay, well, this is the way we're all going to buy in, and we're going to do this way. And in my direct experience, it was, with the yoga, where it was like, well, here's this thing that's really powerful and it's working. So I'm going to like really dedicate myself to it and even teach it and talk to other people about it. And then to find out that things were happening that were absolutely, abjectly unacceptable for me, I had to cut ties with that. That broke my heart. But I did it. I had to do that for me. I think
yeah,
some people left, some people stayed, whatever, but could not I could not abide. And that is a gate of sorrow that I didn't see coming, and that a lot of people had to pass through, because there were people all over the world um, practicing with these different gurus.
yeah. I think there's an opportunity also in this conversation to maybe shrink the world to our own orbit, right? Yeah, there's a lot of global misgivings, and I think if not in most, if not all industries. Would you say? Do you think that's a safe assumption to make that? w-
Yeah, even
uh,
tech. They have their gurus,
yeah,
and yeah,
yeah,
it's
like
true. You're right. Yeah.
in what might be deemed as the upper echelon of these industries, that's that could be, and I don't want, and allegedly, right? I don't, let me use that word. Allegedly, there could be some really strange, unfortunate things happening on the top level, and then of course it could trickle down uh, to many different levels. Um, and so whoever's as you mentioned, in the tech world might be experiencing some compromising experience, or things that's causing them to compromise their values and morals. What you could be in the yoga wellness industry, or the academic industry, government, like in all of these different fields. I s- Religious, church, all of these different spaces, right? There, there could be some power, um, unhealthy power dynamics that's impacting groups of individuals, and so there is a point of sorrow that we can talk about on a more broader sense, But if we were to even look into our own world, our own orbit, the world of Diana, the world of Stephen, could there be points of sorrow there? What's
Ooh.
ha- am I making sense to what I'm trying to get at here?
Yeah, but it's so interesting because I thought you took like a little wiggle turn on me there because I thought we were going in a direction of like you don't need a guru, like it's an opportunity to grow. You're gonna do this yourself. That's what it's all about. Um, but what I'm hearing you say, I think, is that we need to be introspective to the point where we can examine our own thoughts, words, actions, and try to like see like are we a reflection of that grander experience? Oh my god. And that takes some radical honesty and some hard looking at yourself, friend, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Woo. And then that's even more heartbreaking because I'm sure we're all like kind of fucked up, you know?
Yeah, yeah, for sure, right? For sure.
But also you have to immediately forgive yourself and do the work, not immediately forgive yourself and keep doing mess up stuff, but like you can't come down too hard on yourself too for, just like you can only evolve as fast as you're going to evolve. You can only learn as fast as you particularly are going to learn. You When you know better, you do better, like all of those things. But that is a very interesting. I really wonder if how many of us would be willing to like kind of like crucify yourself and put it out there, for real.
Right.
Because I will say, as a former owner of multiple yoga studios, I'm sure I'm guilty of, you know, like profiting off yoga for sure. Um and I feel like it's hard because in my heart I feel like my intentions were really good, but I'm sure there are plenty of ways to kind of reframe it. I was never anybody's guru. I was not on that kind of trip. um but did I promote people? Yeah, definitely. Did I bring people into my yoga studio and let them teach there? Absolutely. Did I profit off of that? I did. And so there is some major growth that I've had to undertake, but also just like heartbreak in an icky way, like, I mean, I wish I had a different kind of business and I was just myself running, like, like an accounting firm or a deli, or, like I could have had 5 delis in Philly instead, with like the way I like to run a business, and it would have been hopefully, as successful, but it was what I did. And you know, it's hard because I have heartbreak about that.
Well, so I want to be clear. I don't necessarily think, and I'm just speaking for myself, right? You can feel the way you feel, but the reason why I brought up that angle is not to critique making money off of the wellness industry. Unfortunately, we live in a capitalistic society, and we have to exist in that framework. And I think because we exist in this orientation, I think it makes sense to do what you love and allow what you love to do to support your living, right? So I want to make sure that I
I
star
like
that.
that. I like that what you're saying. Yeah, and that definitely was like more where my head was at, but also when I think of like the future and things that I hope to do, it is wellness. Like that's really what I'm interested in. So, yeah,
Yeah,
it is, and that's just where I'm oriented. It happens to be what I'm good at. It happens to be what comes naturally from me in everything I do and everything I say. That's what I'm always talking about. Right?
for
So,
sure.
yeah.
And I will also add that no one can, in my opinion, my estimation, can say that you were or are in the wellness industry for the money. You've served yoga for the world faithfully and consistently for how long? 2 years, and you taught for us, and then asked for a dime.
And
And
I
when we
will
were
again. I can't wait to do it again. I'm still
so,
trying.
so I just want to make sure we add that for the record, right? But my main point though that I want that I'm attempting to make is that there's so much that I can do globally, especially in response to the sorrow, the gruesome realities that a lot of people are experiencing. And if there's anything that I can do more of that could help, I'm more than happy to do so. But at the same time, I have to also pay attention to my orbit, the world that I'm creating, that I get to co-write and co-create. How am I showing up, right? As a person who's really influential in Philadelphia, as a person who's in positions of power in the organizations, businesses that I lead, run, and all that, what kind of world am I creating for my staff, for my leaders, for my social network, and so on and so forth, right? So I can't help but to always look at look myself in the mirror and ask the question, do I resemble so and so? And if I do I then have the courage to extend grace to myself, as you mentioned, but then also go through the surgical process of readjusting or reimagining the way I show up in my orbit?
Love this. Love this so much. And like even a little tiny like fractal of something positive that could come out of the existential pain that we're all kind of dealing with is to do that ahead of time. Right. I
Mhm.
think the young folk have that opportunity. Do it ahead of time. Make sure you're not a total fucking dick,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know? Make it like it used to be you could be that kind of just boss, right? You could just be a jerk to everyone because you were the boss. But like this is even higher. Obviously, there are higher stakes when we're talking about you know, children being sexually abused, women being raped, or both of them being, killed. Because honestly, I think we all know that rape is basically a mini murder. So, and I don't
absolutely.
mean to minimize it by saying that, but it is a version of murder, is what I mean. So, to make sure that, like, obvious, like, we're talking about all this stuff now. No, this is not acceptable. No, you cannot do these things. Hard no. Um, it has no place in any kind of human society.
Hmm.
So this, this is again just an entree to the largesse of what the sorrows of the world could mean. And I think we could take it further, but that's why I wanted to untangle a little bit of this because I knew that it would be like a chain that had a knot in it, and it's like we just kind of had to loosen that a little bit in this first approach. The sorrows of the world was not going to be one quick episode, my friend. So
For
we will
sure.
we will reapproach this again next time. And for anyone listening, if you have any thoughts on anything that we said, any way to help us clarify. Sometimes when I'm speaking, I don't always have the words that I want right away, but maybe you can help me find those words, clarify those words. If you have anything to add to this conversation, please go on our Instagram. You can message us at Rose Quartz Pod. You can email us at rosequartzdivorce@gmail.com. And you could even email us an audio file, and we'll listen to that and respond. And I do want to present you, though, Stephen, with something to think about today. So I saw this thing and I did not save it, apparently. I tried to find it right before we started, but I saw this thing and it was about crying. And I wanted to see what your thoughts on crying were. And what it basically was saying is that crying is the most natural thing in the world. It is an instinct from inside. It is the first thing we do when we come into the world as babies. We cry. And at some point, we stop getting comforted when we cry. So we're not getting that comfort response. And we learn that, oh, this is not good anymore. So we sort of stop crying. So I was wondering what your thoughts as a man are on releasing those tears and crying.
Wow, do we have time for this one? So, I was born and raised in New York City, the jungles of New York City. Crying as a boy was not allowed. I've never seen my father cry. I remember when his mother died, my grandma died. He was sitting in we were at the funeral services, and he was just sitting there stone faced, like he didn't express any type of emotions. And granted, he was a lieutenant in the Haitian army, so he was shaped in a way to not show emotions. And prior to my grandmother passing away, there were so many moments. And I forgot how old I was. I was in college, maybe 18, 19, somewhere along those lines. Yeah, 18, 19. I just always had this understanding that men don't cry. We do not cry. And so prior to my grandmother passing away, there was plenty of moments, or maybe a few moments, where I could have cried, but my upbringing, my domestication wouldn't allow me to cry. But it was at the funeral where we stood up to approach the casket to say our final farewell, where I lost it. Right.
Mm.
I lost it. Right. My dad is sitting there, stone faced. Everybody else is crying. Um, and I walk up to the casket and I lost it. Right. And so we're at the burial site and people are still crying. I stopped, but I'm looking at my dad and I'm like, bro, in my mind, of course, bro, like this is your mom, right? The sweetest woman in the entire world that has left the physical world, and you're just stone faced, right? Um, so that has always stood out to me. But then, secondly, as I started to go through therapy and to um, deal with certain challenges that I was hiding and not addressing. There were moments where I felt like my inner being, my heart was crying, but a tear couldn't come out, and
Oh,
that's because I think of my domestication. And so my body wouldn't even allow me to shed a tear.
wow.
Um, and I'll be honest. So today, as we are in 2026, I think I have a healthier perspective on crying. I think it's important as a human, um, part of our human experience. I don't feel shame when I do cry, but one thing I do realize about me is that the most that I can do is shed a tear. Um, and that's really like enough for me. I don't think it is, but it feels like enough. I start getting a headache or migraine. I get tired when I one tear, just one tear falls down.
Just squeak one out.
Yeah,
Gotta take a nap.
yeah, I gotta take a nap, right? So so in theory, I think that it's important for humans to have the space to express through tears their joy and or pain. Um, I just
Or
I
anger.
or anger,
Or
all
yeah,
these
so so many
different.
things.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. I just wish for myself that I could release more than one tear. And when I say one tear, I'm literally saying one tear. It's
Wow.
not an
Wow.
exaggeration. It's one tear, and then I am tired. I'm ready to go to bed.
Well, there are like breakup songs written about this, my friend.
Oh, I
One
have
tear.
oh,
One,
really?
I think so. There've got to be. This is dramatic. One tear. Yes.
Well, send
Just
that
one
song to
more
me.
tear to cry.
We should have a
Okay.
versus
Okay.
of breakup songs.
Yes. Yes.
We should do that and react to it. I'm
Oh.
stealing your
Oh.
idea.
All right. We'll battle breakup songs. Let's do it. Okay. I love this. All right. Excellent. Well, listen, everybody. I hope this was helpful for you. Please keep up with us on our website, rosequartzdivorce.com. We're getting newsletters out regularly and would love for you to become part of the community there. It's all about the conversations that we're having, and not just Stephen and I, but the conversations we want to have with you. If there's anything that we talk about that you want to talk about more, just get in touch with us. You can use the website, you can use our Instagram, but we would love to talk to you. If you're like a yoga teacher who wants some mentorship or some guidance or just to ask some questions, if you are a person that has yoga studios and is struggling with some kind of like gate of sorrow that is like, am I doing the right thing? I do have things that I would have done differently that I'd be happy to share with you. But basically, overall, we're here for you. So please feel free to reach out anytime.
For sure.
Yeah.
Thanks, D.
Yeah,
Always
we're the
good to
Rose
chat with
Quartz
you.
Divorce doulas, by the way.
For sure. For sure.
We're here for it. So, all right, Stephen. Love
Love
you.
you. Bye for now.
Bye. Gotta find that stop button.